If you feel like you're constantly dieting, tracking your calories, doing your training, doing your activity, trying really hard to get your fat loss result, but you just can't seem to get there no matter how hard you try, you keep on failing on a Friday and Saturday night and then starting back up in the cycle of restarting again on Monday, this video is probably going to explain why. Because the most frustrating thing for a lot of people is that they work really hard Monday to Thursday and end up sabotaging the entire thing on a Friday and a Saturday night. And the worst part is that you're actually trying your best to get the result and you just can't understand why. This is exactly what I help specialize in, and this is what I do with all of my clients. So my name's John. I'm a transformation coach. I've helped over 100 people in the last 2.5 years get life-changing transformation results. And today, I want to help you break that cycle and stop restarting again every single Monday and finally get the fat loss results that you want. So I've got my whiteboard out here today, right, because I felt like being fancy again. And I'm going to take you through the main points, and I'm going to try and make this as quick as I can and as actionable as I possibly can. So the very first thing that we find with a lot of people is weekends, okay? You've got structure Monday to Thursday, you've got the same lunch times, you've got the same wake up and sleep times, you're training consistently. Friday rolls around, and then your friends, your partner, your colleagues, whoever it might be, say, stop being boring, come and get the chippy on a Friday, or have this cake because it was somebody's birthday, or we're going out for a takeaway, or let's go for a couple of drinks tonight, or let's go out for a meal tonight. You cave, you say yes, you have that one thing, and then before you know it, you've hit the fucker button already, and you've already started to overeat for the entirety of that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Probably had a couple of drinks in between, and you've probably ended up having an off-plan meal here and there again. So the thing that we need to make sure that we do is when that offer comes through from a friend, family, or a colleague to have that chippy, to have those drinks, or whatever it might be, there's two options here. One, you can either continue to remember why you actually want to achieve this goal. You can sit and think about the reasons why you're working towards your fat loss. What are the problems that are fixed in your life? Do you become more confident? Do you become happier? Do you become healthier? Do you finally go and speak to that person at work or at the shop that you keep on seeing every single week? Do you just generally have a better life? And it's really important to remember that, because when you say yes to those things, you need to remember that that is your choice, that is your decision. And if your why is stronger than the chippy or the drinks or the meal or whatever it might be, then ultimately you need to remember the reason why you can also choose to say no to those things, because it is a choice. So this is where having a strong reason why you actually want to achieve the goal is incredibly important. And that's why every single time I start working with a client, I make sure that we understand why they're actually working with me to get that goal. Because if it's strong enough, you will be able to say no to these things. Now, if you're not doing quite as much of an aggressive fat loss phase, or you're potentially currently working towards a little bit slower or even maintenance, then the best thing that we can do is start to actually work these social occasions in. So the best thing we can do in this scenario is if we're going to go out for, let's say for an example, a meal on a Saturday night with a partner, okay, or your friends. What you need to make sure that you do is you don't hit the fucker button around that, because I'm telling you now from experience of doing this over the last 2.5 years and helping people with these specific issues, it is never the meal or the drinks that take you miles away. It's, for an example, you have the meal on a Saturday night, so you tell yourself that the entire weekend's ruined. So Friday goes out the window. Then Saturday goes out the window in the morning because you go and have a breakfast and eat whatever the fuck you want. You then sit and just snacking crisps all day. Then you go out for your meal on the Saturday night. You probably get a couple of drinks. Then you get a dessert, and then you come back and you think, oh, well, it's completely fucked. So I'll just end up going and having a dessert at home anyway. Or I'll have a chocolate bar. Or I'll have this. Or I'll have that. Or you continue drinking when you get home. And that is the thing that takes you over your total weekly calories for the week. Now, if you've created, let's say, for an example, a 500 calorie deficit on a Monday to Friday, well then, if you just have an extra 500 calories on the Saturday, it's not going to make a big fucking difference. 3,500 calories is 1 pound of body fat. So having that one meal is barely going to change the results whatsoever. But if you then let it spill into your entire Saturday, then on the Sunday you're feeling sorry for yourself because you're a little bit hungover, because you've had a meal, you just then end up getting a Mackey's breakfast, then you have whatever it is that you want for lunch and whatever it is you want for dinner. It was the Friday evening, the Saturday and the Sunday that ruined it. And then you end up spending the Monday once again going back, restarting the entire process, and then over-restricting on calories to do the entire thing again the following week. Whereas if you just went out for the meal and controlled everything else around that, it would have been a drop in the bucket. It would have been nothing. And you would have been totally fine and just continue doing what it is that you were doing with your results, and everything would have went smoothly. But again, because you didn't control everything around that weekend, that's what ended up fucking up your progress. So make sure that you follow those first two tips. Second one, inaccurate tracking. So a lot of people come to me at the start and they'll say, I've been eating 1,400 calories a day or 1,500 calories a day or whatever it might be, and I'm just not losing weight. Now, my first question is, have you actually been tracking everything that you're eating? Because normally the answer to that is, yeah, I think so. Then when I do a little bit more digging, I say, are you tracking the cheese that you picked up off the counter the other day? Are you tracking your liquid calories? Are you tracking your sauces? Are you tracking your oils? Are you tracking the chips that you took off your missus' plate when you're at Nando's the other week? And normally the answer is, yeah, I'm probably having a couple of things here or there. Now, here or there normally means that someone is almost forgetting about the things that they eat throughout the day because the smaller pickups are so frequent. You might go and grab a single cake or a couple of small like brownie bites or something off a table at work when somebody's brought cake in. Over the course of that week, you're probably actually having like an extra 300, 400, 500 calories a day sometimes compared to what you actually think you are, because you're only tracking 75% of what you ate. So until you actually track every single calorie that you eat, you can't then say that this amount of calories does not help me lose weight. Because if most people, unless they're a very, very small female towards the end of a diet, 14, 15, 1600 calories will get most people to lose weight. Guaranteed. Because as I said, I've done this for quite a while now, worked with over 100 people, and I know for a fact that those calories for 99% of people will get them to drop weight, especially at the beginning of a fat loss phase if followed consistently. Liquid calories, I've just previously mentioned it there, but this is another really big one. You're having teas, you're having coffees, you're having your Coke through the day, and you're adding in milk and sugar to all of these things. If you're having these drinks, let's say for an example, even a Starbucks that you might not even track, which might have 300 to 400 calories in, alcohol on a weekend as well, you don't track them because you're having the lower calorie drinks. All of those drinks could end up having 100, 150, 200 plus calories in, and if you're having, let's say for an example, 2 lattes per day, that's an extra 400 to 500 calories per day that you're potentially drinking. Obviously, it's not very filling, so you're not even really going to think about it. You're not going to feel it. It's not going to help you feel full. And again, I'm not saying that you can't have coffee because I've just had one, but it was tracked. So the point being is you can still have these things, but you need to make sure that you're also tracking that intake. Fourth one, portion sizes. So 2 things with this. If you're constantly feeling hungry when you're in a deficit, which by the way is not only a normal but completely necessary part of the process, then you need to understand that portion control is going to be one of the best things for you. Making sure that if you want to stay full and low calorie, that you continue to have higher volume meals with low calorie dense foods in, so fruits, vegetables, protein as well. These things are going to satiate you. They're going to be a lot more filling because there's 3 types of hunger. There's 3 different ways that we can signal that our body is no longer hungry. So the amount of time that it takes to chew a food, the calorie dense, the amount of calories that are in foods, and also the actual time that it takes to eat that food as well. Okay, they're the 3 things that we need to make sure that we're doing. So if we have good portion sizes with protein in, we're going to have to chew that protein, we're going to have to chew that veg. There's going to be a lot of volume within that meal, and then the amount of time that it actually takes us to eat that meal will be a lot longer as well. We're ticking all 3 boxes, making sure that we're signaling to our body that we are eating food and we will be less hungry. If you just go and have, let's say for an example, a chicken sandwich, right, with 2 slices of bread, some butter on there, some mayo, and then a little bit of chicken or a little bit of tuna, it's probably not going to fill you that much. You haven't got any fiber in there, sorry. There's not going to be loads of protein because it's just in a sandwich, and obviously the bread will digest very quickly and very easily. That is not going to be a very filling meal. So doing something like a chicken salad with potatoes is going to be significantly more filling. Also, little side note, potatoes are king when it comes to stuff like this. Potatoes are, statistically, the most satiating food that you can possibly eat. That's a proven stat. So if you start adding potatoes into your diet once or twice per day for your carbohydrate sources, you will feel significantly more full when you're dieting. Activity is another one. I've had it with so many clients in the past where they are sticking to their calories, but their activity is dreadful, right? It's a really solid effort if you can only do 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day. You literally have to be sitting on your ass all day. Get up, walk around the office. If you're going to the shop, park furthest away from the shop so you can get that extra 1,000 steps in. Go and get half an hour of walking in per day, especially at the moment because the weather is nicer. It's summer in Britain at the minute. I think it's about 25 degrees today, which is like the second hottest day that we've had all year. Get yourself out in the sun. And if you're at a point where you're watching this when it's a little bit colder outside, get a fucking coat on. That's what they're there for, right? Go and get your coat on, get your fluffy socks on, get your joggers on, and get yourself out for half an hour of walking per day. Try and make sure that your activity is a minimum of 8,000. Every single person watching this video should be able to get a minimum of 8,000 steps in per day. Okay, if you can, get 10 to 15k in. The more activity that you do, the more calories that you're going to burn, which obviously means the more calories that you can eat throughout the day, and the more full you will feel, and the easier you will lose fat. This one here, eating healthy, right? Super common one. I hear it all the time. Well, my diet, like I eat healthy, but I'm not losing weight. Yeah, in the meantime, they're eating loads of avocado, loads of eggs, loads of oil, and they're not tracking any of these foods because they're eating healthy and they can't understand why. They're having handfuls of nuts here or there. They're not tracking the rice or anything like that. Now, don't get me wrong. All of the foods that I've just mentioned there are nutrient-dense whole foods that are great to eat. They're great for digestion, great for hormonal function. They're going to help you recomp your body. But if you're not tracking these things, they can get away from you very, very quickly. There's 4 calories in a gram of carbs and a gram of protein and 9 calories in a gram of fat. So if you're not tracking your oils, if you're not tracking your nut butters, if you're not tracking your avocado, although all of those foods have plenty of poly and monounsaturated fats, which again are great for hormonal function and very, very good for you, those calories can add up very quickly. And regardless of how healthy you're eating, that can take you well over your calorie intake for the week. Well over. So make sure that even if you're eating healthy, you are still tracking your macros, because if you're eating a lot of these foods, you're more than likely taking yourself miles over what your maintenance calories are. And at the end of the day, how much you weigh does not care about how healthy the food is, although again, you should be prioritizing whole nutrient-dense foods. Your body does not care in terms of energy balance. If you are in a calorie surplus or a calorie maintenance, you will either maintain or gain weight. You have to be in a deficit to lose weight. It's as simple as that. Cutting your calories too low too quickly. Now, obviously, as a diet goes on, your calories will have to drop because your body weight comes down, you get more tired, you move less, and your body will adapt to the level of food that you're on. So it's really important that you don't put your calories too low too quickly. I say this to all of my clients: try and keep your activity as high as you possibly can, because ultimately, if your calories are too low to start with, there's only one way that they can go. You're not going to spike your metabolism halfway through by putting your calories up. Yes, sometimes you might see a little bit of a drop off in weight from an increase in carbs or an increase in calories in general, because your body is then de-stressed and you've reduced your water weight because of the stress levels lowering. That's all it is. You're not spiking your metabolism or losing more fat, okay? So you need to make sure that you start your calories roughly in a 500 calorie deficit. Go online, go to a TDEE calculator, put in your age, your weight, and your height, your activity levels, what your goals are, and then whatever the maintenance calories levels are from there, subtract 500, okay? Start with that. You should be losing around £1 to £2 per week when you do that, all right? From there, if your body weight then stalls, you can drop it by another 10%. So last one here, the thing that everybody gets wrong, and you're not gonna like when I say this, but consistency, all right? Consistency is by far the biggest thing. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the start of the video. You can be perfect Monday to Thursday, but if you're not then consistent on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, well, then you're not going to get anywhere. Now, if you're somebody who does Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, perfect, Saturday, you then go out for a meal on an evening, but then on a Sunday, you just get straight back to it, you will make progress. Because ultimately, the people that allow a Friday evening meal or a Saturday evening meal to mean that the entire 3 days at the end of the week, which by the way is like fucking 45% of your week, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday is a big fucking chunk of your week. If you're someone who allows those 3 days to then be affected because you had one meal, that is looking for perfection. And because you're not getting perfection, you then just throw the consistency out the window. You have to stay consistent. And it's such a cliche, but consistency beats perfection every single day of the week and twice on a Sunday, okay? Look at it over the course of the week and even over the course of the year. You can be perfect. You might have a day where you have a little bit of food, straight back to it, you're perfect. Now, do you think going Monday to Friday and then having a slight spike on a Saturday and getting straight back to it for the next 6 days is not going to get you results? Of course it is, unless of course you had like 10,000 calories on that Saturday, right? So as long as you're being consistent most of the time, and again, you might not end up having a meal every single Saturday, then the point is that they're very, very small bumps in the road on the course of the year. But if you have half of the week or 4 days out of the 7, perfect, and then a big spike over those 3 days, and then 4, and then 3, nearly 50% of the time, you're eating well over your calories. So that's the thing that's doing it. So the point being is that you need to make sure that you're, one, learning how to manage social occasions if you do want to work them in, or two, if you do want to work towards a slightly more aggressive fat loss goal and get extra lean like I've just done for my photo shoot, then ultimately you need to make sure that you're remembering the reasons why you're doing this, and remember that you do actually have the choice to say no to these occasions, to say no to the cake at work, to say no to the meals if you think it's going to take you away from your goal, and if you think your goal is worth more to you than having a meal out. It's as simple as that. So if any of you are struggling with this sort of stuff and you want a little bit more help, I'm going to put the links below of this YouTube video for my 4 weeks of free coaching, which will take you through the first 4 weeks that I take all of my clients through, gets them all set up with nutrition. Or if you do feel like you need a more personalized approach and you do want a little bit more accountability, I'm also going to put the inquiry link for my one-to-one coaching service online in the YouTube link below. Feel free to click on the link, inquire, ask as many questions as you need to. There are never any pressure when you inquire for the service. Ultimately, it's about making sure that my service works for you and that I think we are going to work good together. So if you're someone who thinks that you're willing to put the effort in, like we've spoken about this entire video, and you're willing to make the change, but you're just unsure of how to actually put your effort into the right direction, well then feel free to hit one of the links below and we'll have a chat.